Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going deep, really deep, into the mystery of the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, a case, that's fascinated people for decades. And honestly,
It's fascinating.
yeah.
And getting into it for this deep dive, I had no idea how many layers there are.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you really start going down these rabbit holes. So we're going to try to take you guys down some of those with us. But, we got to start at the beginning. So it's the late 1960s, Northern California.
What could go wrong?
Right.
Beautiful place.
Time of peace and love.
Peace and love. What
Yeah.
could possibly go wrong? And then this string of murders starts happening. But they're not just any murders. I mean, they're scary, obviously, but they're also very thought out.
Right. This is not just someone, like, in a fit of passion. This is planned.
This is methodical. And,
Oh, yeah.
And they're
Right.
taunting everybody. Exactly. And that's where the whole, cat and mouse game with the police and the media really kicks in.
Right. Right from the get-go, this is someone who wants the attention, wants to be in the spotlight.
Oh, yeah. Wants
Yeah.
to be famous. And in a way, they became that, right? They became this almost mythical figure. And, that's something you see a lot with these kinds of cases, right?
Yeah.
These unsolved serial killer cases, they kind of capture the public imagination because they represent, like, this ultimate unknown, this
Yeah.
break from the order that we try to create in our world.
Yeah, and it makes you question everything, right?
Exactly.
Because it's like, if this person can just disappear, if this person can do these things and never be caught, what does that say about the world?
Right. And I think that's what's so unsettling about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it could be anyone.
Exactly. It could be anyone. And it's scary to think about. But, speaking of unsettling, we need to talk about the victims here.
Right, because they're the ones who are often forgotten in all of this, right?
Absolutely. And we need to remember that these were real people with real lives.
Exactly.
And the impact of these crimes is still felt today.
For sure.
The confirmed victims, they were targeted between December of 1968 and October of 1969. It started with David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, a young couple. They were just parked on a lover's lane.
Oh, gosh. Tragic.
Tragic. Then you had the attacks on Michael McGough and Darlene Ferrin, and later the murders of Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell. These are just a few of the names that are connected to the case.
And each one of these, represents a life cut short, families torn apart.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting you mentioned the letters that the Zodiac sent, because that's a huge part of this. He was sending these chilling messages directly to newspapers, talking about the crimes. They were filled with ciphers. And this is where it gets really weird, because they seemed like something straight out of a movie. They had astrological symbols, zodiac signs. It was like he was trying to build his own brand.
Yeah, and I think, it worked. It definitely got into people's heads. This wasn't just about, being anonymous. It was about creating this persona, this
Right.
terrifying persona.
This mystique, yeah. And it really ramped up the fear, because it was like, who is this person playing these games? What are they going to do next? And like I said, it wasn't random. Some of these ciphers were actually solved. Can you imagine being the person who cracks that code?
I can't even imagine.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, like these messages are real. He's talking about real
And
things.
clonking the police.
Taunting, exactly.
Correctly. And the public, it was almost like he was daring them to catch him.
Yes.
And I think that's what's so frustrating about this case is that despite all those taunts, despite all the leads, the investigations, it's still unsolved.
It is mind-blowing. And, over the years, they've looked at so many suspects, but a few really stand out, like Arthur Leigh Allen, Richard Gaikowski, even Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was considered at one point.
I mean, when you think about it, the Unabomber makes sense, right?
Right.
The guy who loves codes, loves ciphers.
Or sending bombs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, maybe there's a connection there. But then you dig a little deeper and it's like, no, not really.
It's just another dead end. And it's the same with all of them. I mean, Allen had this Zodiac watch.
Okay, creepy, yeah.
Right.
A little on the nose, don't you think?
Talk about a clue, maybe.
Right.
But then again, was it planted? I don't know.
Who knows?
But he also had a bloody knife in his car.
Well, that's never a good sign.
Never a good sign.
Yeah.
But again, not enough to connect him to the Zodiac. Then there was Gaikowski, and he matched some of the witness descriptions, but again, just not enough to say for sure. It's like they were so close, but so far every single time.
It really makes you wonder, if we'll ever actually know the truth.
Right.
Like, is this a mystery that will just never be solved?
It's frustrating, but I think that's what keeps people so fascinated, right? It's like this puzzle that we can't put down.
I think you're right. There's something about the unknown, the unsolved, that really captivates us.
And with a case like the Zodiac, it's not just a puzzle, it's like this cultural phenomenon, right? I mean, there are books, documentaries, movies, you name it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's ingrained in our culture at this point.
It's a story that just won't die. It makes you wonder, though, what is it about these kinds of stories, these mysteries, that we keep coming back to? What does it say about us?
That's a good question, and unfortunately we're out of time, but it's something to think about.
Definitely.
Until next time, keep digging for those answers, but be careful. You never know what you might find.
That's right.